the Short Term Pro podcast. I'm your host, Vernon and I'm thrilled to be here today from the Foundation Mortgage Office in beautiful East Tennessee. I do want to thank Nick and Megan Galbraith for their hospitality and allowing us to use their offices to record this show. Many people know me as the Short Term Pro. I'm a licensed realtor for LPT Realty. I'm a licensed vacation rental manager. I'm also the founder of staycating.com, and I'm licensed in the state of Tennessee. I assist clients as a consultant all over the world and as a business advisor for Jetstream. It's a tech company. We're building a full property management system for real estate agents to help them market, manage, and monetize their short-term rentals. My community give back is I serve as an executive director for a lot of youth sports programs from 4 to 24. And I love to have my team help you out with anything that you need. We are found at shorttermpro.com, and we pretty much handle anything end-to-end, anything full property management. From if you want to self-manage or whatever, we can actually help you with all of that. So today, I mostly though just love being a husband of Jeanette, the father of my 3 boys, Bryce, Jake, and Seth. And I'm the caretaker and the provider and the on-demand person for my 3 fur babies, Zelda, Winnie, and Coda. Today, I'm here with Ashleigh Seay. Ashleigh and I have been friends for a little while. Let's go ahead and just start talking a little bit about what we're here for today. We're not here to give any legal advice or anything like that. We're going to put a legal disclaimer in the show notes. I want to start the podcast today by talking to Ashleigh, who is very passionate about what she does. You know, she had a 9-to-5 and she was working in the real world and she was trying to break free of that. And so, Ashleigh, tell us a little bit more about your journey and how you got to where you became a short-term rental person. Tell me a little bit more about what you do.
Okay, absolutely. In 18, we started real estate, buying properties. We were doing long-term rentals, started out. Well, we had fix and flips in there as well. But then we came across the Smoky Mountains vacation rentals, and we started buying properties. A lot of people were supportive, and some were like, "You're crazy for spending that much money on these properties." But we got in it. We loved it. It has its pros and cons, of course. But as things started rolling and operations needed a little bit more work, I just stepped out of the W-2 world and pursued real estate full time. That wasn't an easy journey, and I think still everything in your life, it's always a journey and always a growth to it. So.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, you know, we kind of met by chance, right?
Yes.
How do we meet? That's a good story.
It is a good story. So I guess I was sitting on the couch and I had a long-term property in Oak Ridge. So I was like, just looking on Airbnbs, I was considering the one to do a short-term. And I was like, well, let's see who's doing short-term rentals in Oak Ridge. And I came across this one property and it said, Vernon was the property manager. I was like, well, I'll just reach out. So I sent a message, and surprisingly, Airbnb allowed me to send a personal message to you, and you respond back. And I think we ended up calling. I don't know how I got your number.
Right. I think I said, go find me on social media.
Yeah, I had to go because we couldn't. Airbnb doesn't allow us certain communication. So we went online. I found his number. We ended up talking for like an hour that day and connecting. And then you later did a meetup. So then I went to the meetup, got to meet Vernon more, and we've just stayed connected ever since. And
we're good friends now. And we you know, and Christy's here. She doesn't want to be on camera, but I love Christy. You know, she always brings joy and life into my meetings with you. And we've had many breakfasts, and we've spent a lot of time together doing some projects together. You know, you got into this industry. So tell us a little bit about why you chose long-term for that. We're going to talk a little bit about why you chose long-term, and then we'll lead into why you chose the short-term and the vacation rental. But tell me why you chose long-term rentals.
I think when we were going through like education and groups, short-term wasn't something that was mentioned a lot. I don't think it really broke out. It's probably always been going on, but I didn't hear it until later into our investing career. I still love long-term. Just there's a lot of benefits to that side of it. But yeah, we just started out long-term because I think when you start learning, you're like, make the active cash flow because you got several tax things. But you start out active, make quick cash, but you get taxed more. And they're like, just throw it in long-term. You get to take more deductions and stuff like that. So we just went that route. And then a couple friends came along and was like, hey, you need to do short term. And I was like, I don't know what that is. So we bought our first property not knowing anything. And just over the years, we've learned a lot by trial and fire, and we've bought a lot of lessons
Sure.
along the
Absolutely.
way. And I think some phone calls still stump us, but we get through it. I mean, that's just
Sure.
part of the background in engineering. You
So
just keep problem solving.
speaking of engineering, you have basically introduced me to David and Clay and Terrell.
Yeah.
And tell us a little bit more about what's going on there with all you engineers. As a matter of fact,
Yeah.
I met a guy named John the other night at one of the local meetups.
Yeah.
He's an engineer, and now he owns short-term rentals. So
Yeah.
tell me why that really works for an engineer.
That's a good point. When I was working in corporate America, I was surrounded by a lot of engineers, and it never fails when we go in a big group. We'll just, you know how wherever you stand next to someone, they said it's meant for you to be next to them. And we'll get to talking to them and they'll be like, yeah, I'm an engineer. So somehow my energy pulls me to engineers no matter wherever I go. But I think at work, I just love talking about real estate so much. I got interest peaked in a lot of people, and it just kind of went that way. Clay was an intern that worked with me at the job, and then later I met him at a meetup, and now he's rocking and rolling in real estate. So I'm proud of him as well.
Yeah, Clay's got a really nice property over in the inner city. It's really going to be nice when he's done with it. He's renting it out. So tell me a little bit more about some of the experiences or challenges you faced through the process. Because I know when you're a new investor, I don't personally own properties. I just manage everybody else's assets.
Oh, yeah.
Somebody said the other day, you just take all of our problems and make them better. So in your case, though, you don't have that luxury. You're basically self-managing. You're selling them. You're listing them. You know, sometimes you're the maintenance person. I mean, last couple of weeks ago, you told me, hey, I got to go fix something.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, people say, oh, this is passive income. I mean, it is to an extent, but tell us a little bit more about the challenges of being a self-manager and why it's important to have a system process.
I think it starts in the beginning because everybody, even from people know I'm in short term and they call and they're like, run comps for me. And I'm like, comps isn't really something you run like you would as an agent. And comps is kind of hard still. Everybody's like, you got Air DNA, you've got other systems, but they don't take in, there's a lot of considerations with amenities that each property has and a specific location. I feel like a lot of these systems, even like comps for an agent, they just take a big wide bubble and said, okay, here it is. And you got to cater it a little bit more to your property. But I think that was our big challenge in the beginning. It was coming up, we were like, we're going to buy this. We don't really know if it's a good price or not.
Right.
That was the big one because some of our friends were like, I can't believe you're spending this much money on a property that was 700 square foot, mind you. We had other people that were really supportive. It was like, you're going to make a killing. So we just dove in, bought the property. It was our first baby. We went above and beyond on that one. What are the other challenges?
It's gross versus net.
Yeah.
Explain when we're as real estate agents, what do we like to talk about? We like to talk about gross, but really, what's the real world like? I mean, every day you're facing challenges. You've got maintenance costs, you've got like management costs, all these other costs involved. So as a new investor, you know, tell the folks why a new investor should do their due diligence, number one, but also why they shouldn't just listen to the real estate agent when they say this thing will make $350,000.
Yeah.
Because on paper it looks really good, but there's a day-to-day operational thing. Just
absolutely.
Talk about that.
So a lot of agents will say this is a projected gross of 70,000, 80,000, and I'm like, okay, well that's great, and the price could be 800,000. But you have to look at another perspective. For long terms, I can just say, here's my mortgage, and let's say it's a perfect world and the tenants pay all the utility costs, their own cable, water, gas, and all I have to worry about is the mortgage, insurance, taxes, and then property management fee, because I sub that out. So that's what you got to worry about. And then I just say I got 50% expenses for maintenance. But then when you buy a short term, and even it goes for midterm rentals as well. That's another subject. But you have to consider what is your utility, gas, water, sewer, and then you've got cable or internet that you have to provide. Then you have your mortgage. Then you have insurance. Then you have taxes. Then you're acting as a business like a hotel. So you have multiple taxes on that. You have gross tax if you're in city limits like Pigeon Forge. Then you have the state that wants their percentage at the end of the year for your business tax. Then you've got fire marshal inspections. That's another one that's coming out. And then people don't consider cleaning cost. A lot of times that's rolled into your property manager, but that gross, if you're making 80, you might as well say 10 to 20,000 of that gross is your cleaning. And it's nothing against the cleaning company. I mean, that's just how many turns it takes, and that's the cost to do it. So cleaning is a big one I don't think a lot of people consider. And then a lot of times they don't consider, I got to pay all the utilities, and you're at the mercy of how cold do they want it? How hot do they want it? How much are they going to run your gas logs?
We had an amenity like a hot tub. We have luxuries sometimes. They're mostly on wells where we are, but we empty and refill after every guest. And if you're living on city water, that can get it.
Yes.
I mean, the thing is I don't think people always take in consideration all the expenses that are involved. And so when we talk through our podcast series, I want people to talk about the real world. I don't want to talk about the unicorn that you always get that one guy. Well, I'm making $20 million a year, and I'm just sitting back on the beach relaxing. We're not like that. I mean, you and I are basically cut from the same cloth. I think we have some blue collar in us, and we started as service people, and we don't care to go out and even this past week, I was out building a bear trap back where a bear had jerked it down the hill because everybody was busy. And, if you're the person that's self-managing it, the boots on the ground are super important, as you well know. Having a good cleaner, having a good maintenance person, having people that you can just trust. Because, I mean, really, what I believe in this industry more than anything is when it comes to even Airbnb, Vrbo, reviews, this is all based on trust. And so you have like this, what I call high trust, high reward. And sometimes those cleaning costs and those maintenance costs can cost you a little bit more, but you understand the value of getting the right people, correct? I mean, that's super important. And so when we're looking at this thing from the bigger picture, from the 30,000 feet, speaking of which, you're jumping out of perfectly good airplanes. What's this all about? Tell me about this new journey that you're kind of on. I've been super impressed. I mean, you've helped co-author a book, and you've done a lot of things. Tell me a little bit about why you're in that journey today and why you're
Absolutely. When I left corporate America, I would say the biggest thing, I had my mindset like I'm going to move forward in real estate, but then it actually took me differently because I realized my health was not in the best shape. And we went to an event called Turning Point out in Las Vegas, which we've talked about that. And I've been around a good group of people. And the group that I went with, they were like, let's make this event more fun. Let's go jump out of an airplane. And it was like he was afraid to call because he was like, I've got a really serious question. I was like, yeah, what is it? He was like, would you go skydiving? I was like, yeah. He was like, really? I was like, yeah, I'll do it. I've never done it before. But at that time, I was there's a weight limit to skydiving, and I was right on the edge that I didn't know if I was going to be qualified or not. So the day that you show up, you have to get on a scale. And I think I was 2 pounds under to be able to skydive that day. So that was, that's another realization too, when you realize that, weight can hold you back a lot in your life.
I used to go to theme parks and couldn't ride roller coasters. So we went this past summer and I could get in, my weight loss journey, as many people know, is I've lost over 200 pounds. And, if you're like me, and I want to ask you a couple, personal questions about that. I mean, I believe that health does indicate our wealth because honestly, things have grown exponentially for me in my life in the last 5 years or so since I began to focus on my health and my wellness and mindfulness and, just being able to really begin a holistic approach to building my wealth. Give me some examples of things that you've been doing in your life lately, from a holistic standpoint to build your wealth, to build your character, to build your integrity and be someone that's trusted in the community. And, if I call you, I know I'm going to get the right answer. You're very matter of fact with me and you tell me things and we talk genuinely. I know that's you, but the rest of the world doesn't know that you. So where did all this kind of start with all that? I mean, just kind of give us a foundation of why behind all that.
So I think when we started out in the investing world, before I ever became like an agent, everybody was so giving. So my motto is you give more than you receive. I think if you do the right thing, you treat people right, money is a byproduct. It will come into your life tenfold. But I look at life as 4 quadrants. You got your mind, your body, spirituality, and then you have financial. And if any one of those quadrants you think of it as a wheel, if any of them are off and you've got a a flat tire if you're trying to go down the road, nothing will work.
Right.
So when we used to set goals, and money was some of the goals, and I found when we would meet those money goals, I didn't have as much satisfaction as if we had set a goal to do something prominent or to help somebody. So that was always something that gave more to me from that aspect. So yeah, and I mean, most every people that do know me, I'll just shoot it to you straight. I don't hold back. I don't have much of a
Right.
filter.
There's no filter there. What's Ashley up to lately?
Yeah.
What's the little,
So
little catch thing?
I've always tried something new.
Sure.
Christy's posted videos. We built a plunge. We weren't we didn't spend $6,000 on a cold plunge.
Explain it for the people who are listening.
So cold plunge is the newest thing. Absolutely love it. Would recommend it to anybody. But to get the nice layout tubs, one of our friends bought one. I was like, what is it going to cost? They were like $6,000. I was like, okay, what's another route? So, you go to YouTube, you go to your resources, and they're like, you can get a deep freezer. So we end up taking a visit to Lowe's, and we're both sitting in these deep freezers up in Lowe's. So I'm pretty sure I might be on the FBI list for, she wants to put a body in a freezer. But so we brought it home. I sealed it from leftovers from flips. And then we bought a regulator from Amazon. And so right now in our garage, we have a cold plunge. So we get in it every morning. I absolutely love it. You want to talk about energy and explosion? Go do that. It's extremely cold. We set ours to about 50 degrees. We haven't went below that yet. We're building up to it, but you send it for 3 minutes, you get out, it's like, I can conquer the world. But that's the latest one I love.
For sure.
And then obviously the weight loss journey has been, I haven't done as much in real estate, but I don't consider that as a failure because I've been working on me ever since I left my job. Because when you leave a job that tells you what to do, when to go home, what your plans are, when you leave and you don't have a good structure, you don't know who you are. So then you take this big journey on who am I? And I mean, I'm still on that journey. I think every year you age, who do I want to be when I grow up? I think you'll always ask that question because I think as humans, we should always continue to push ourselves and evolve. We weren't given this beautiful mind and body and world to not push ourselves to be more of who we are. So that's
So I think
it's a lot.
At some point, you have to find out who you are, and then you have to find out why you exist. And those are two of the most important questions in my life. That when I found out the answer to both of those, it was like, I've been here all along, but I just didn't realize it.
Yeah.
At 53 years old, my 53rd birthday was kind of a bad week because there were some realizations to me that my timelines were crunching. You're younger than me, and you got significantly more time depending on the way this world operates. But when we're looking at our lives, when we find out our why, we find out our purpose, and we find out what makes us tick, then everything else just sort of falls into place, right? I mean, it's kind of like once we get to a certain area where we're comfortable with ourselves, comfortable with our bodies, we've got a clear mind and a clear heart. I call it pure heart, and our eyes are just seeing the world differently. And the scary part about it is for me sometimes is even when I was unhealthy, I was always successful and I was always doing great things and I was always helping a lot of people. But for some reason, when that changed, and I don't know if this is how you feel or not, but when that flipped over, I don't know if it's people view me differently or see me differently, but in the world that we live in the short-term rental space, I mean, you've got to be in pretty good shape and you got to be able to handle a lot of calls and things, and you got to be able to take care of those guests. And, we all know them, and we're going to talk a little bit about that here in just a minute. But as a short-term rental investor, I mean, I think you have kind of, to me, that's why I wanted you to be one of my first episodes, is because I think that you have taken this journey and it's become a learning experience for you. And I think, would you encourage other folks? I mean, I know there's a lot of resources out there. I know there's like the Bigger Pockets folks and people like that out there, but tell us a little bit about where you kind of learned this process, and not just the holistic side of it, but tell us a little bit more about how you learned how to deal with a lot of these things. I mean, is there somebody you follow? I know you have a coach person or whatever that you.
The coach is more. I think for me, my personal growth. I think everybody should always keep a coach in their life, and there's a criteria that you can read up on how to pick your coaches. But I think originally the company we bought with here locally. Derek was a big support. He answered a lot of questions. They had some training videos, but I was more lost on that. I mean, it's just my learning technique didn't fit with that. But Derek was a good call to do a lot of things. And then slowly, you you're standing on your own feet and you're learning through experience.
Trial and error.
Trial and error. And like I
Failure.
said, we've bought some of our, we bought many lessons, as my aunt would say, so you know not to do them again. But you just kind of go through life. You try to do the best by the clients, but I don't know if sometimes that comes back. I try to be a very transparent person, but sometimes it's not helpful to overshare at all. And that goes against my soul, because I'm like, I just want to be honest with you, but a lot of people don't want that honesty.
No, they don't.
They don't. They're like, just be who you need to be. Like, be the landlord
who you need
that
to be
I don't care for.
For me to be who I am, and that goes into another part of it. And when we're talking about passive versus people having to work this, if you're self-managing, it's very much not passive. And a lot of times, I mean, the guest doesn't care if you're at a wedding. They don't care if you're on vacation.
No.
They pay for your property, and it's their vacation, it's their experience. So tell me how you create a good guest experience for your guest. I mean, tell us kind of how that works a little bit. What's your process?
I didn't learn that up front, and we learned that over time, that communication throughout the whole stay. We ended up adding about 4 different messages that go out within the course of their stay. If they're staying 2 days, they're getting bombarded, but we felt like just having the reoccurring messages was big. Following up the day after they check in has been critical, because it also, if they ever complain, you can at least go back and say, I asked and no one communicated to me. So we can only fix what people communicate to us. So I think having messages and following up with the clients has been critical.
Pretty much called auto triggers, and that's through your PMS, which is property management system, and all that sort of thing. And we're going to get into some of the technical aspects of that. But so do you have any stories about guests? Some fun ones. Everybody does. It's done this.
Knock on wood, I don't have stories where they've come in and destroyed. But I have had a story where I rented a little over a week or so to a property out in the country I managed for somebody. And I noticed they came in with work trucks, and I think I forgot what happened, but I had to go to the property. It was mud everywhere from where they're in construction. I mean, I can't fault them for that.
Right.
Then I came downstairs and I opened the dryer. I think something was wrong with the knob, and like mud just fell out of the dryer.
Wow.
It was just mud everywhere. And then they had ripped the doorknob off. But I messaged the guy and I said, hey, I came to help with this, but I'm noticing it's really dirty. I mean, he was nice. He's like, my boys will clean it up. Right. I just communicated to him. And I gave my cleaners a head up saying, hey, just to let you know, you may need more time on this. I apologize. If it costs more, then charge me. But I think because they're construction, this is going to be extra dirty. So please be aware. And, I just tried to let everybody know to try to make it smooth, because when they left, we had another turn coming in right after that. So that's always the ones you're like sitting, sweating them out. But
correct.
That one worked out good. And then, I mean, you always have the ones that want to nickel and dime you. I want a full refund. Well, if you want full refunds, then I just ask them to leave. Because at the end of the day, I can't stand the risk of not making anything and them still being upset and want to destroy my property. So full refunds, just leave. But July's, I give out more refunds. And it's frustrating, but July is like the worst month.
July is always in like the American holidays, where we have Thanksgiving and we have the holiday, the Christmas season, and it's just funny because it seems like that is a higher expectation. I don't know what it is.
I don't know what it is either.
But last week was very challenging for us as well.
Yeah, I think
when I'm out in my van having to travel around and do things, it's a very bad week.
I think we called each other and I was like, when is July over?
Yeah, exactly.
One more week.
Absolutely. So you helped co-author a book. Can you tell us a little bit about the chapter of that? Because I've read it. I've seen it. I got an autographed copy and a picture with her.
Yeah.
But, I was very touched by it. So can you share a little bit more about that?
So I met Caesar at Turning Point. He does several series where he talks about how you can overcome anything, and he picks a different subject every time he does a series. And this was the 10th series. And it was, how can you overcome anything with the awareness of what? And each author had to pick what they wanted. And I picked the power of words. And that's what the chapter I wrote on. And I just felt like, and it just talks about my journey of how I've recognized how I spoke to myself. I recognized how words throughout my childhood up through my adulthood has affected me. So it's a matter of reprogramming your subconscious to make your conscious side. just see things differently. We're always got to reprogram ourselves because no matter where you come from, whatever started you out in the beginning somehow just follows you through life until, and it could be good things, but we always remember the bad. I feel like as humans, it's just nature. So sometimes you got to figure out what has been making that happen, and then you got to change it. But I enjoyed it. I had less than a week. I think we got back home Monday, and he called me and he said, I have to have this by Friday morning. And I was like, oh, okay. So I get my laptop. I go outside, I think, Tuesday, because that was the first day I got settled in. And I just sat outside with water noise because I like listening to water. And I just sat there and typed it all up. And then the next day, it was like, once you get all your thoughts out, then you can go in and organized it. It was I loved the experience. And I'm actually thinking about trying to write more books. But I want them to be a little bit more, I love mindset. I could talk about that all day and go down rabbit holes, but I want to talk about a little bit more educational stuff and do books on that. But yeah, I enjoyed it. I advise anybody that you've wrote a book too, correct? Yes. So I advise anybody to go do it. It's an experience.
Right, it is.
I mean,
it's a lot more challenging than you think.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's hard to get everything that's in our brain and put it on paper for some reason, or the proverbial, paper.
I thought it was perfect for me because I just had to do 3,000 words.
Sure.
So it was a very small one. I didn't have to go write a novel.
Right.
So I thought it was a very good entry point. And I just thoroughly enjoyed it. I can't speak how much on it. And I hope it changes other people's lives that read it or can relate to it. But there was a lot of 16 other authors on that book and very good stories and good messages. So if you have a chance, go out and get it.
So as we close out this episode, you have any parting words if someone was out there and they're confused or they don't understand, how to even get started in this business? I mean, kind of give them a little encouragement today to jump in there with both feet.
Here's my $1 million.
Yeah, let's go with nugget. Here we go. Let's
go
get
with the biggest nugget you're going to get.
Sure.
If you're looking at short-term rentals, I understand vacation rentals, you may not find that. But if you're buying in metro areas, and analyze that property like a long-term rental and go and buy on those numbers. Because in the event regulations take out STR or they get re-regulated and you can only own one, that way you've bought that property to be structured where you could flip back over to a long-term rental and still pay the mortgage and pay your bills. So that's what I want to leave with, because I'm really stressing everybody because we don't know what all the changes are. But if you buy it based on a long-term, reach out to a long-term property manager and just say, hey, what would be the rates I could get right now for this 2-1? And just have those numbers and then go and make your offers and make them work.
So you're saying that we should start with the long-term in mind. I mean, obviously the end guest user experience as a short-term rental with the amenities and things, but you're saying that if we get those numbers and understand that's going to be a lot better process for us.
I think so. Because in the event, let's say we're in Knoxville and they come through and they're like, no more STRs like Atlanta did. I don't know then you're stuck with only that one exit strategy because you've overpaid for the STR and now you have no income. But if you had set it up as 2 exit strategies, then you can fall back on that first exit strategy of the long term and you still have a good asset that's growing with equity and you're still paying all your bills.
Sure.
So that's
good.
Yeah.
That's good. That was a good nugget. Wow. Yeah. I learned something today. I mean, I've thought about that before, but that's really good information. That's why it's good to talk to others too. We're all about building communities around here, and that's how Ashleigh and I operate. There's a lot of folks out there that want to sell you all these books and stuff, and they want to sell you all these, these gurus out there. I do coaching, I do consulting. We both do. We do charge for our time. I mean, it's not that we don't do that, but really it's about getting with others in your community and finding others. I mean, we got tons of local investor groups around here. I would encourage you, as a new investor, if you want to get involved in that, especially here in the Knoxville area, East Tennessee area, we have many of these, short-term rental investor groups that people attend, and they're at night and they're laid back. Some of them have training, but some of them are just networking, and you can actually just walk around and talk to folks. I've met more people in the last 2 weeks attending those meetings and becoming part of those communities, just reaching out to folks. And honestly, it's got me new business. And so in that case, I think that getting plugged into the community, knowing your numbers, doing your due diligence, keeping up with the local HOAs are terrible. We won't get into all that today. But, there's a lot of things that you need to think about before buying a property. And the ones that come to us later,
Yeah,
We
after
get
they
those,
bought it.
don't we?
Yeah.
We
And
get
then
those a lot.
they cuss at me a little bit.
And they want to
And they're like,
take it
no
out
one
on us.
told me this. And I'm like, well, we didn't talk beforehand. I wasn't your agent, so.
So we're very service-minded people and professionals, and the problem is a lot of times you'll have agents that want to race to a commission, or they're going to race to a closing, and they're going to try to get you to the table, get the documents signed, and get you out there and just kind of put you out there on your own. But if you're really looking for reliability and you're looking for folks, make sure that you're talking to people that have either owned or managed or real estate agents that have been around it a long time. So as a new investor, today, if your biggest fear is, the unknown, just get the knowledge. If your biggest fear is if you have the finances or not, there's a lot of other ways around that. I mean, you can actually, there's creative financing opportunities out there.
Call me.
She can help you with that. There's wholesale deals out there. There's all kinds of deals out there, but you got to be plugged in and you got to be networked in a community of people that have that information. Ashleigh, do you have any final or closing thoughts today that you want to just give to folks?
Something that keeps coming to mind, I think I need to say it. If you don't know where to go drive neighborhoods and look for abandoned houses and find out who the owners are and call them. Because every community needs more housing. So if you can start with a house that just no one's living there, that's a good place to start because that person may be motivated. And that's another house that we could add to the community to give more housing. So I think that's another way.
And that could be a great community give back too. That's that we're both very involved in and that sort of thing. Do you have any community give back things that you want to talk about, or are you just kind of?
I just trying to help people, but like you said, people do want to eat up a lot of time, and you want to help, but then eventually you do have to charge for your time, and that's a part that sometimes I don't like because I end up, and sometimes Christy will be like, you got to wrap up the call because I've been talking to an hour for someone, but there's no greater feeling than getting off the phone and them saying, I was so lost before this phone call. You've really helped give me several ideas because I think I don't need to just throw one idea at you. I need to give you some multiple options because life is full of options.
Right.
So I think that's a big takeaway. You do more like community service and doing stuff in the community. Me, I just want to provide housing.
I know you like me have made it part of your life goal to just help others.
Yeah.
You want to love others, you want to live a joyous life, and you want to leave a legacy. And I think that's my 3 keys every day in my life. If I've done one of those 3 things every day, I've done something.
Absolutely.
So today we're just going to close out the Short-Term Pro podcast episode. And if you'd like to find Ashleigh or find out more about how she can work with you a little bit, tell us a little bit how they can get a hold of you.
Absolutely. So it's Ashleigh, Ashleigh, last name SEAY /RE. You can find that on Facebook. I'll give Vernon my personal number and he can post on the site if he wants to and go from there.
Thanks. And you can always find the Short-Term Pro. That's what everybody calls me. I didn't pick that name. It was picked for me at shorttermpro.com, or you can find me on Facebook. Most people find me on Facebook. Ashleigh's pretty active on Facebook as well. So guys, we thank you for listening today. And remember to go out and live your dreams, love fiercely, live joyously, and leave a legacy.
Amen.